The traditional way, if you look at President Obama and other presidents, most of them didn't make calls. I like to call when it's appropriate, when I think I'm able to do it.
Those comments and more today from the president caused fury from former Obama administration officials, especially one telling NBC News, quote, President Trump's claim is wrong. President Obama engaged families of the fallen and wounded warriors throughout his presidency through calls, letters, visits to Section 60 at Arlington, visits to Walter Reed, visits to Dover, regular meetings with Gold Star families at the White House and across the country. Other responses were less measured. Former Obama Deputy Chief of Staff Alyssa Mastromonaco wrote on Twitter, quote, that's a bleeping lie to say President Obama or past presidents didn't call the family members of soldiers killed in action. He's a deranged animal. Former Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes also posted on Twitter, quote, this is an outrageous and disrespectful lie, even by Trump standards. Also, Obama never attacked a Gold Star family. The White House responded with a statement of its own saying, quote, the president wasn't criticizing predecessors, but stating a fact. When American heroes make the ultimate sacrifice, presidents pay their respects. Sometimes they call, sometimes they send a letter, other times they have the opportunity to meet family members in person. This president, like his predecessors, has done each of these. Individuals claiming former presidents, such as their bosses, called each family of the fallen are mistaken. That's where this debate stands. And with us tonight, Paul Rieckhoff, founder and CEO of IAVA, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. He happens to be an Army First Lieutenant and platoon leader in Iraq formerly. Jeremy Bash is with us, former Chief of Staff at both the CIA and Pentagon, also an MSNBC national security analyst. Paul, I looked up these figures. Pentagon tonight, total dead Afghanistan, 2,388 total wounded, just over 20,000. Total dead in Iraq, 4,530. Total wounded in action, over 32,000. These are all your brothers and sisters in uniform. You have them serving all over the planet tonight. How did you react to what the president said today?
I was surprised. I mean, I've been in this space now for, a decade and a half, and I know that presidents call, and they write letters, and they visit, they do all those things. I saw President Bush do it. I saw President Obama do it. I think all of us in the community saw that. I also, want to take a step back here. I mean, I think what we've all found throughout the Trump run and the Trump presidency is that issues of national security, veterans, military, the stakes are higher. Your margin of error is much smaller. So I think the American public pushes back, whether it was the Khan family or the attacks on John McCain or now this. The margin of error is very small. And I think you'll see both sides of the aisle hold him accountable on this and hopefully on all issues of national defense, veterans issues, and military going forward. There's also a bigger question here he didn't answer. He hasn't answered. What are they doing in Niger? Right? There are 4 special forces folks that were killed in Niger. And we haven't had a national conversation about what they're doing there, what their mission is, and what their families and the rest of the military can expect from what might be a prolonged engagement there.
Yeah, it would be nice to know more about that. Mr. Bash, we ask that you be with us tonight because you have served at the Pentagon in wartime. You've served up close with former Secretary Leon Panetta. You've seen this process. Tell us about it.
Well, Brian, on August 6, 2011, we lost 30 guys when a helicopter was shot out of the sky in Wardak Province, Afghanistan. And John Kelly, now the Chief of Staff, who was then serving in the Pentagon as Senior Military Advisor to Panetta, called the Secretary, called myself, and told us about it. And with the President, many of us went to Dover, not only to greet back the remains of our fallen heroes, but in fact to console and condole the families and friends of the loved ones. And it was a huge haul, and I saw the president personally, President Obama, go up to each family member and spend several moments with each. This is something the president did regularly. President Bush had to do it. Previous presidents had to do it. They make phone calls, they write letters, they handwrite letters, they visit with Gold Star families. So for President Trump today to say that his predecessors did not speak or reach out to those families is a disgraceful and despicable lie, especially when 12 days after the biggest combat death in his presidency, he has played 126 holes of golf, and he has yet to reach out or even speak publicly about those deaths.
Paul Rieckhoff, of course, thankfully, the tempo of battle has cooled. We are not seeing the numbers, sometimes weekly, of killed in action, wounded in action, as we were when both of these post-9/11 wars were at their height. We hasten to add we have people in uniform in both theaters of operation tonight. Because people don't know, what is your experience with how previous presidents, there were only 2 during this most recent wartime, have handled this kind of thing?
They've handled it very well. They've handled it personally. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to be in the shoes of a president making those phone calls, but it's always a very intimate experience. You know, each family usually wants something different or may not even want the phone call. So it's a very delicate, it's the most sacred thing, I would argue, that our president does. So it has to be handled incredibly carefully. And I've seen that done in my, you know, again, over a decade of working in the veteran space, working with military families and Gold Star families. And I think, again, a bigger issue that I'm concerned about, I think many veterans are concerned about, is how often we're being dragged into politics. I mean, this happens again and again. Our military, our veterans are being politicized. We see that now with the national anthem. There are issues where we just keep getting shoved in the middle of some of the nastiest fights in America. We've got enough to deal with overseas. So I think that's where all Americans should be really putting up the guardrails and holding this president accountable, holding the media accountable, anyone else who drags us into this over and over again. That's what's most unprecedented here. Having us used as a shield or as a bludgeon is a very dangerous place for America to be in.
I was going to say there's a lot going on at the IAVA website, but none of it is about getting involved in presidential politics. Jeremy Bash, just one more question, because you have us thinking about Niger. Any reason? It can't be what you guys call OPSEC, operational security. It can't be OPSEC that the president isn't talking about Niger, because the Secretary of Defense has discussed it. Any reason why the president has not in 12 days?
None that I can think of. I mean, I think it's possible that he did not want to shine a specific light on this mission. But again, as you referenced, when the Department of Defense acknowledges a mission, acknowledges that we have lost individuals in battle, it's appropriate and, in fact, I think incumbent upon a commander-in-chief to do so as well.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much for coming on. Sensitive topic, obviously. Paul